A Covenant of Coexistence among Rwandans for millennia. Section 1. Contents and meaning of this covenant. The covenant is also known as a coexistence agreement or an agreement throughout the text. Those who have entered into the Covenant of Coexistence among Rwandans for millennia are committed to working together to resolve the problems of Rwanda as outlined in the book Syllabus for a Better Life in Rwanda, by implementing the solutions presented in the book to ensure that these problems will not occur again, thus ensuring a peaceful coexistence for thousands of years. 1.1. Here are 6 pillars that guide the Covenant of Coexistence among Rwandans for millennia. 1. Uniting forces for change. 2. Equitably sharing the benefits of victory. 3. Building a Rwanda capable of emerging from ethnic disputes by reconciling and protecting all Rwandans' equal rights. 4. Establishing a safe and stable foundation for democracy. 5. Aiding African countries to overcome similar problems we have overcome ourselves. 6. Establishing Rwanda as a peaceful coexistence community, without the need for binding agreements. 2.1.1. The goal of this effort is to build a movement that unites Rwandans who strive for political, social, and economic change throughout the country. 2.1.2. Bringing together political actors, activists, members of civil society, and other groups that connect Rwandans as a whole. 2.1.3. Aims to facilitate collaboration between those who are pursuing political change, those who are dedicating themselves to bringing about change each and every day. Unidentified and known activists from all nations, and the Rwandan community as a whole. 2.1.4. Create an ideology that unifies and assures most Rwandans as to the type of society we aim to build, and ensure it is broadly endorsed. Section 2. The purpose of this agreement is to guide Rwandans towards these 7 defined plans of action. 2.1. Building trust. By strength, will, and a clear vision, eliminate distrust and division, enable Rwandans living abroad and within the country to align in a common purpose. Covenant 2. Reason for the existence of this agreement. Specifically, as outlined in the below section, this agreement offers Rwandans the opportunity to achieve the following 7 objectives. 2. Establish a clear vision for success and cultivate strength by eliminating the factors that cause distrust and division so that all Rwandans, whether they reside domestically or abroad, may work together toward a common goal. 2.1.1. This agreement aims to build a movement that unites all Rwandans who strive for change collectively and individually to produce a powerful force. 2.1.2. Act as a unified force among political actors and activists, advocates, civil society organizations, and other groups who have ties to Rwandans. 2.1.3. Protect all change agents and change advocates working in Rwanda, regardless of their interests, status, or identity. 2.1.4. Throughout the agreement, sets of principles true to all Rwandans are harmonized with the aim of achieving a unified vision relevant to the health and safety of Rwandans as a whole. 2.2. The agreement aims to align the forces and resources needed to wage a campaign against violence, terrorism, oppression, and injustice, which are fundamental to Paul Kagame's FPR regime. All Rwandans who value peace, freedom, unity, justice, development, and democracy are invited to rally behind us so that together we may achieve freedom. 2.3. The power sharing process will involve 2.3.1. Assembling a government consisting of all Rwandans who have contributed to the achievement of change. 2.3.2. Providing opportunities for members of the current regime, security forces, and civil society who are operating or influenced into injustice, yet indirectly supporting or accelerating change openly or discreetly. 2.3.3. Give political opportunities to those in prison who are unable to engage in active civil responsibilities due to their imprisonment. 2.3.4 Incorporate the end goals of all non-political individuals living inside Rwanda who strive for change, either openly or quietly, to further their interests. 2.3.5 Incorporate policies that encourage better living and relationships in Rwanda, as outlined in the Syllabus for Better Life in Rwanda, to achieve good health and security across Rwandans and between Rwanda and its neighbors. 2.3.6 Council-based local governance that enables citizens to take charge of their communities without being influenced by ethnicity, nepotism, political parties, or bribery, but rather based on competence and peer trust. 2.3.7 Provide a sense of security for all citizens, allowing military, police, and other security agencies to work harmoniously with the civilian community instead of competing against each other. 2.3.8 Educating the public about their rights and the role they need to play in advocating for them. 2.3.9 Establishing a multi-party democratic system by first educating the population on their political, social, and economic rights so they can elect the government properly. The 2nd of March, 10, aiming to help marginalized citizens in Africa to understand how they can self-govern and address social problems on a local level. The 2nd of March, 11, upon the termination of this agreement and the emergence of a multi-party democracy, elections are scheduled on the basis of a clearly defined understanding of national interests. 2.4 Justice for all. The principles outlined in 1. Syllabus for Better Life in Rwanda, 2. are implemented and protected in this Coexistence Agreement to provide fair justice, compensation for pending or delayed justice seekers, solace, hope, and well-being for all. Section 3. A description of the 6 pillars that make up this agreement. 2.4. The first pillar, uniting forces for change. 2.4.1 The goals of uniting forces for change include discouraging participants from engaging in chaos, disorder, complicity in mutual destruction, or sabotage, as well as taming competition for followers, sponsors, or unnecessary prominence in the media and political arenas. Instead of continuing working in chaos, these responsibilities should be handled by those elected to them in the Assembly, which brings together all the parties involved in this agreement, who strategize and determine the priorities within the budget for the resources of the function. Bringing together the forces also means engaging Rwandans and foreigners in mutually beneficial programming. 2.4.2 A movement is an organization formed as a result of this agreement, which includes political parties, activists, and civil society groups advocating for political and social change in Rwanda. 2.4.3 Resources of the movement. The resources of the movement consist of contributions made by its members who have signed these agreements and contributions made by those who prefer to remain unknown. All materials provided or purchased with funds contributed by members and supporters are included in its assets. Additionally, it encompasses all funds in the association's bank account and those invested in various projects. Resource flow is regulated by specific fund and asset regulations established for that particular purpose, including collection, management, and utilization. 2.4.4 Change Strategy. A Rwandan change strategy is a plan developed and approved by movement members to guide change in Rwanda. The committee drafts them, the movement's members approve them, and team coordinators, task forces, volunteers, partners, and those assigned these responsibilities under contract carry them out. To ensure the movement's functional regulations regarding oversight of planned activities are followed, members and those responsible for actions to be taken as required are provided with periodic reports exploring ongoing activities, urgent matters to be addressed, and other significant timeline changes. 2.4.5 This agreement establishes that all responsibilities for advocacy for change in Rwanda are entrusted to this movement in order to eliminate disorder, instability, and fragmentation, and that individuals, political parties, and organizations already engaged in advocacy activities independently may do so under the framework provided by this movement. Nonetheless, this does not imply the dissolution of independent organizations or political parties. Rather, it means that the partners of the movement will carry out activities in their name and support the movement's initiatives under the agreement. In addition to assisting them in any mandates that the movement has given them, the movement will also communicate supporting information to Rwandans and relevant international partners. In lieu of competing for members, contracts, or recognition, all actions will be taken collaboratively. 2.4.6. The movement's regulations consist of statutes that govern the movement, dictate how it is managed and govern how it deals with other organizations as well as how it forms collaborative agreements. 2.5. The second pillar, equitably sharing the benefits of victory. Success, when used effectively, can generate power and wealth that can change a nation and its people for the better. There is also no doubt that many officials benefit from these changes, or unfairly disadvantage others, particularly the most vulnerable groups. As a precautionary measure against such conflicts, this agreement provides mechanisms to ensure stakeholders are not overlooked, or if they are neglected, they are provided with avenues to seek redress from the members of this movement and the Rwandan judiciary based on the established rules of share distribution. 2.5.1. Rwandan society, well-being consists of these components. 1. Food security, to increase production, increase availability of food on Rwandan markets, and reduce food prices to enable every household to achieve food security. 2. The availability of sufficient cooking fuel, gas or electricity, for everyone to cook, and clean water is readily available for all. 3. Electricity, gas, and water, the availability of sufficient cooking fuel for everyone to cook, as well as the availability of clean drinking water. 4. Possessing assets and housing that are safe and secure. 5. Resources that are available to all households so that they can live sustainably. 6. The provision of employment and other means that assist individuals in raising themselves above poverty is essential. 7. Peace of mind, when security agencies, tax authorities, and local governments address all factors affecting people, peace is achieved. 8. Sense of security arises when security agencies, tax authorities, and local government authorities address the factors that lead to insecurity. 9. Individual freedom. The changes agreed upon by these parties to this agreement affirm their intention to preserve fundamental freedoms and rights for individual property, family, privacy, thoughts, speech, and actions for self-advancement, which shall not be violated or interfered with by the government or its institutions established based on this agreement. X. Rights. Under the amended agreement, those signing this agreement advocate for individual rights as spelt out in international law recognized by Rwanda and protected by the Rwandan Constitution. 2.5.2. Youth. By negotiating this agreement, those involved intend to ensure that the youth of Rwanda move out of an inadequacy of solutions and that measures are put in place to secure employment for those who reach working age and who have completed their education. Individuals with natural gifts who wish to pursue further education in Rwanda and abroad will have the chance and support they need to achieve their goals. It is crucial to develop the youth to become leaders who can succeed the elders and grow into experts Rwanda needs, as well as exploring markets with other countries and international organizations with which we will extend cooperation agreements in terms of work and knowledge. 2.5.3. Women. Rwandan women must be empowered and granted every human right in accordance with global gender equality as well as Rwandan culture promotion in order to prevent Rwanda from losing its cultural heritage by blindly following trends. 2.5.4. Politicians. parties, activists, and individuals involved in politics deserve an equal share in power distribution and governing public institutions. 2.5.5 Military and Police. Under this agreement, current Rwandan military personnel, police officers, and those carrying weapons will continue to perform their duties, while those who wish to enter these fields will be admitted in accordance with the number of personnel and the profession requirements. It is affirmed in the agreement that promotions, rank advancements, and assignments will be determined solely by the qualifications of each individual and the laws governing these professions. 2.5.6 Teachers and Students. Under the agreement, the Rwandan education system will be upgraded to meet the standards set forth in the Syllabus for a Better Life in Rwanda, based on which the national curriculum will be developed. It is critical that Rwandan curriculum be designed to facilitate teachers in delivering lessons that are in line with modern education requirements, and to develop students with relevant knowledge. 2.5.7 Traders and Entrepreneurs. As part of the agreement, all government contracts are to be awarded to Rwandan traders through tenders won by them based on their knowledge and ability to carry out the contract. Furthermore, it ensures that the relevant stakeholders will implement regulations to facilitate business operations in regard to taxation, loans, importation, distribution, and security for traders and goods. 2.5.8 Rights of all Rwandans. Under this agreement, all Rwandans are guaranteed security, rights, justice, welfare, and equal opportunities before the government and the law. Assuring Rwandans that they will not be discriminated against or deprived of their rights due to corruption, ethnicity, nepotism, or any other factor contrary to Rwandan law and human rights, the parties involved assure Rwandans that rights will be protected. 2.5.9 Ex-members of Parmehutu and MRND. This agreement ensures that ex-members of these political parties are not excluded or marginalized from politics or other state positions. The 2nd of May, 10, Children and Youth during the 1994 genocide. All signatories are committed to prevent ethnic divisions and rivalries stemming from historical grievances by establishing specialized forums to address their issues. The 2nd of May, 11, Survivors and Memorials to the Genocide. This agreement commits the parties to protect and preserve the dignity of genocide survivors, memorial sites, and other replicas of Rwanda's history, both tragic and positive. The 2nd of May, 12, Heritage and Heroes of Rwanda. This agreement commits the signatories to preserving and adhering to what has been recognized as Rwanda's heritage and those who have been recognized as heroes, while incorporating overlooked aspects which should be included, those that have been omitted or purposefully excluded, into the existing list. The 2nd of May, 13, Innovating Education, Knowledge, and Skills. Those involved in this agreement intend to reform education so Rwanda's education is knowledge and skills-based, and to provide teachers with pedagogical approaches that help students achieve their secondary education armed with the skills they need to positively contribute to the nation and themselves. The 2nd of May, 14, To all Rwandans. 1. All victims of killings, dispossessions of individual properties, and other destructions committed by all regimes, especially genocide and RPF, will receive fair redress and compensation. 2. Civil servants working for the FPR regime are protected by the Civil Service Management Code, Rwandan laws, and human rights. 3. To those responsible for FPR injustices, we assure them that our goals are not vengeance or retribution and that justice for us does not mean injustice for others. Under this agreement, you are guaranteed protection for yourself, your family, and your possessions, and you can explain your case to an independent judiciary. 4. In addition, Rwandans are assured to address the categorization brought about by the FPR regime, such as A. Sayakuraganda, B. Abajip, C. Abasapesia, D. ABA Dubai, E. those from countries and continents not listed in FPR descriptions. F. Anyone allegedly deprived of life, livelihood, or opportunities by the FPR. G. Alleged victims of the FPR, both military and civilian. H. Those adversely affected by the subversion of the Arusha agreements. 1. Entrepreneurs and businesspeople killed, robbed, and harmed by the FPR. J. People and groups that work to bring about change, openly and secretly, will be given the same rights as like signatories. K. The cases of all prisoners serving their sentences will be reviewed promptly, with extra attention given to pending appeals or grievances that were ignored. Those who are found innocent or wrongfully sentenced will be freed, and those whose cases are delayed will be expedited and be entitled to the same benefits and rights as other Rwandans. 2.6. The third pillar, building a Rwanda capable of emerging from ethnic disputes by reconciling and protecting all Rwandans' equal rights. Creating a new Rwanda does not mean creating a new country and naming it Rwanda. A new Rwanda is described in this agreement as one that will reclaim what the old Rwanda had denied its people. In light of the current oppressive regime's extreme deprivation, some Rwandans doubt the claims that a new Rwanda will restore the following rights. 1. A country where people's rights to life and property are unalienable. 2. A country where citizens are not treated as slaves. 3. A country in which no one is imprisoned for their political beliefs or held as a hostage. 2.6.2. Mass misery can be alleviated through innovation and dispelling ignorance, as outlined in this agreement. 1. Health, nutrition, housing, healthcare, water, sanitation. 2. Production. Increase the output and input of each household by supporting producers. By improving markets and money circulation, Rwandans will have more purchasing power and demand, which will result in more employment opportunities and an improvement in their quality of life. 3. Knowledge. Improving intellectual awareness of rights and choices and applying skills gleaned from local and global events to address pressing issues. 4. Self-governance. Cultivating citizens who desire and can exercise their right to vote and be elected as leaders at all levels, beginning in villages, sectors, districts, and provinces. Under these terms, campaigning, being elected, and advancing through ranks should not be influenced by others, a party, religion, or organization, or corruption, nepotism, or tribalism. A candidate who has the ability, willingness, and trust of their voters can do so unhindered. 2.6.3. In accordance with the terms of this agreement, Rwanda promotes the unity of all Rwandans, including A. Rwanda is inhabited by 3 ethnic groups, Hutus, Twas, and Tutsis. Rwandans of all races, ethnicities, and religions have equal rights to live, exist, and benefit from all that our country has to offer, including government-sponsored benefits. B. This agreement prohibits Rwanda from using ethnic political cards or divisive politics in order to gain power, e.g. 1. Creating ethnically based political parties, associations, religions, and companies. 2. Offering jobs, education, loans, assistance, and other services based on ethnicity. 3. Establishing ethnically based security institutions, such as the army, police, and so on. 4. Using ethnicity as a factor when allocating resources and making decisions. 5. Conducting meetings, writing documents, communicating, or interacting with specific ethnic groups. 2.6.4. Among the human rights recognized under this agreement are those that have been recognized and those that are yet to be recognized, preserved, and safeguarded pursuant to the International Human Rights Convention and as protected by international, regional, and Rwandan laws. 2.7. The fourth pillar, establishing a safe and stable foundation for democracy. 2.7.1 Creating a democracy. This agreement acknowledges that Rwanda has never had and does not have democracy. This agreement commits the parties to establishing a democracy that will follow the transitional government so that citizens are able to elect their leaders at all levels, from villages, sectors, districts, provinces, and up to the country's highest levels. 2.7.2 Rwanda needs this type of democracy. The parties to the agreement agreed that the existing institutions would be preserved, but new ones would be built based on those proposed by the winning party. Institutions for which a party would campaign and be elected include 1. Presidency, National Council to national level. 3. Ministers only in National Congress. 2. Parliamentarians, National Council to nationwide. This agreement ensures that all levels of local elections, from village, district, provincial to national, NACO, will be free and fair from political party interference. In fact, these elections will remain a democracy in which everyone has equal access to voting, candidacy, ascending through the ranks, and having a say in public decisions, with no party affiliation, bribery, religious or associational affiliations imposed. Those who are capable will engage willingly and with the confidence of voters who know them well will be elected to the positions required to protect and promote both their local communities and the country as a whole. 2.7.3 Taking part in the democratic process would require Rwanda to meet the following criteria. 1. Educate the public on what democracy means and what they are expected to gain from it. 2. Educate citizens about the difference between electoral democracy based on parties and council elections based on citizens, and how they can strengthen democracy, foster good governance, and prevent ethnic strife and authoritarianism. 3. Increase awareness of new democratic practices among Rwandans and political actors in general. 4. Developing frameworks for cooperation and laws governing parties' interactions with local governments. 5. Forming the Electoral Commission and establishing the electoral laws and regulations. 2.7.4 Based on the democratic process, it is evident what will change and what will remain the same in this agreement. 1. Changes to these agreements. Democracy will end the cooperation between parties, allowing them each to rebuild and operate independently. 2. There are still some elements of these agreements that remain unchanged, even after the parties involved no longer share the same operational methods and collaboration. The syllabus will continue to support this agreement regarding the resolution of historical issues, ethnicity, social life and community relations, governance, and public autonomy. 2.7.5 This agreement monitors Rwanda's democracy to ensure 1. It contributes to Rwandan unity and prevents violence and conflict among Rwandans based on their ethnicity, history, religion, or social status. 2. Its aim is not to devalue specific groups or plunder masses for wealth accumulation, nor does it attempt to destroy useful established entities. 2.8 The fifth pillar, aiding African countries to overcome similar problems we have overcome ourselves. 2.8.1 Rwanda assists other African states. Although governance and economic issues vary across African countries, they share a number of common challenges, including poverty caused by poor governance, war, and the plundering of national wealth by the few. It is for these reasons that the signatories acknowledge that no one can give what they do not possess, and whatever solutions they can find to overcome Rwanda's complex challenges will be useful as a model in many areas, including social welfare, good governance, economic development, and conflict resolution, for other countries. Therefore, Rwanda is determined to reach out to other African countries to propose a journey together toward emancipation through an approach known as Africa Chapter 2 that can be adopted collectively as a continent. 2.9 The sixth pillar, establishing Rwanda as a peaceful coexistence community without the need for binding agreements. 2.9.1 The following reasons warrant Rwanda's need for this agreement today. Tyrants rule it and treat citizens as mere prisoners, to be taxed, persecuted, used for bagging aid, serve as a reserve of manpower and human shield, and legalize his oppressive regime or die mercilessly. 2. It is important that Rwandans overcome their differences, regardless of ethnicity, history, or political affiliation, build mutual trust, and concentrate on what is agreed upon in this agreement rather than favoring their own sides. We want to free the hostages who are incarcerated by the oppressive regime because 3. The Rwandan people lack a clear understanding of their true desires. 4. Basic living standards are lacking among Rwandans. 5. Rwandans lack knowledge of their rights and advocacy options. 6. Rwanda is an undemocratic police state that does not tolerate independent voices or opinion. 7. Violence and poverty have plagued Rwanda for a long time. 8. The wounds of genocide and war crime in Rwanda still linger. 4. Rwanda is a country governed by propaganda, spy networks, and intimidation, which are oppressive, violent, and exploitative. 5. In the event the problems identified in the book in paragraph 2 are resolved, this agreement is terminated. Section 4. The following are historical facts established by this agreement. 4.1. Rwanda's history is marked by the following injustices. 1. Between 1600 and 1958, Rwanda was ruled by a monarchical system based on feudalism that oppressed and deprived Hutus, TWA, and lower-class Tutsis of their humanity. 2. In 1954, King Mutara III Rudahigwa mandated reforms to address injustices. 3. Parmehutu called on the Hutu people to abolish feudalism between 1957 and 1973 and to revolt against their Tutsi masters. The Hutu revolution led to ethnic divisions, ethnic hostilities, arson, killings, and lootings that forced hundreds of thousands of Tutsis into exile. Under the Parmehutu regime, the Tutsis who remained in Rwanda suffered oppression, selective killings, and marginalization. According to historical records, approximately 20,000 Tutsi innocent civilians died in 1963 as a result of these ethnic-inspired attacks. 4. Parmehutu set up the First Republic, enabling it to be a single party and consolidate the dictatorship by pursuing divisionism policies. 5. The Parmehutu government led by President Kayibanda was overthrown by forces led by Major General Juvenali Habyarimana in 1973 in a coup d'état. 6. Following the overthrow of the Parmehutu government, many of its officials were brutally killed by Major General Juvenal Habyarimana's regime. 7. The agreement confirms that Major General Juvenal Habyarimana's regime minimized persecution and killing of Tutsis in comparison to his predecessor, but marginalization and oppression based on ethnic identity remained prevalent. Milton Obote's Ugandan government forced Tutsi refugees back to Rwanda in the 1980s, reviving ethnic tensions. Because Habyarimana rejected most returned Rwandans, many joined Museveni's National Resistance Army, which in 1986 toppled Obote's regime. 8. When Museveni's resistance army won the Golira War, Tutsis who fought alongside the army demanded to return to their homeland, Rwanda, but Habyarimana responded that Rwanda was full, resulting in a forceful return where, under the umbrella of the RPA-RPF movement led by Major General Fred Gisa Rwigema, led a forceful attack on Rwanda on October 1, 1990. 4. In the agreement, it is memorized that Major General Fred Gisa Rwigema was betrayed and killed on the second day of RPF's attack on Rwanda, and that he was followed in death by Colonel Adam Wazwa, Major Peter Bayingana, Major Chris Bunyanyezi, and many other members of his high command. Following the tragic deaths of the FPR High Command, Ugandan President Museveni, who supported the RPF, handed the RPF leadership over to Major Paul Kagame. 11. The agreement states that Major Paul Kagame's appointment as leader of the Rwandan Patriotic Army resulted in countless deaths among conflict volunteers and civilians who joined the movement to assist the struggle, as well as civilian communities caught up in conflict zones. There is such a need for a thorough investigation to understand the circumstances and to bring justice to the families who lost these innocents. 12. Our position is that after the end of hostilities and a ceasefire in 1992, the negotiation between the RPA rebel forces and the government of Juvenal Habyarimana, called the Arusha Peace Accord, did not come to fruition because the president was assassinated by a perpetrator whose identity has not yet been proven. 13. According to us, the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi and murders targeting moderate Hutus took place during the 100 days of Rwandan genocide due to several reasons, including historical resentment against the Tutsi by some Hutus, the fury caused by the RPF invasion and war, the downing of President Juvenal Habyarimana's plane on 6 April, 1994, and the instigation of looting killed Tutsis by Hutus. 15. Under the command of Paul Kagame, the RPA seized power on 4 July, 1994 amidst bloody scenes, corpses, and the pain and despair of innocent Rwandans when it defeated the interim government led by President Sindikubwabo Theodore and Prime Minister Yohana Kambanda that encouraged Hutus to kill Tutsi and moderated Hutus by rallying with Hutu youths and extremists who were dominated by the Interahamwe youth wing of the MRND party. VX. Former RPA troops under Paul Kagame conducted retaliatory operations against refugees in the Kibeho camp, as well as in the former Zaria camps from 1996 to 1997. According to our analysis, no credible investigation has yet established the death toll from these retaliatory killings. However, survivors' stories of trauma speak for themselves as a testimony to their experiences. VXX. Using a human shield around himself as a pretext for protecting Rwanda from retributive justice, President Paul Kagame has protected himself from retributive justice for crimes against humanity he has committed since 1990 to date. Considering his claim of protecting Tutsis, one should ask whether he is the only Tutsi capable of protecting fellow Tutsis. To illustrate how Paul Kagame hides behind presidential immunity to avoid facing justice, the following truth is revealed. We attest that Paul Kagame's dictatorship uses a wide variety of weapons to maintain its oppression, including silencing independent media, critics and opposition groups, civil society and journalists, preventing the Rwandan population from leaving, killing intellectuals, including upcoming stars, businessmen and entrepreneurs, and enslaving and seizing the property of the masses. We certify that part of a long list of weapons of dictatorship, there is spying that is enforced by intimidation, murder, extortion, imprisonment, forced disappearances, the division and destruction of families, and the prevention of worship and family gatherings. Resistance is punishable by indefinite imprisonment, torture, and humiliation to force people to confess to crimes they didn't commit. These confessions are then used to clean and wash the dictator's image. We witness that the Paul Kagame RPF regime has established a brutal regime in Rwanda that violates all individuals' rights to life, property, and other forms of abuse, which are despicable to humans. We confirm as witnesses the horrendous suffering of the Rwandan people and the DRC people caused by Paul Kagame, including the heinous killing of Rwandan youths in the closed border mineral wars. We affirm that Paul Kagame, through targeted assassinations of citizens of neighboring countries and abductions of Rwandans fleeing to them, has prevented unity among Rwandans and created many enemies for Rwanda as a nation. In East Africa and beyond, Rwandans are hated for their wars against neighboring countries, where they have killed their citizens in covert missions or coups d'etat. We allege that Paul Kagame's regime uses assassins with weapons and poison to kill Rwandan refugees who are being resettled in several countries around the world or members of the international community who criticize his inhumane policies. This violence has killed both Rwandans and foreigners, including Seth Sendashonga, who was killed in Nairobi in 1998. Colonel Theonest Resind, murdered in Nairobi, Kenya. In 1997, Colonel Patrick Karegeya, killed in South Africa in 2013, and General Kayumba Nyamwasa has been shot at least 3 times in South Africa. It is our knowledge that there are countless Rwandan civilians and soldiers who have been kidnapped, tortured, and later killed after being forcefully kidnapped, returned to Rwanda using fabricated crimes against them, or assassinated in countries where they have sought refuge. We allege that the regime of Paul Kagame harasses and interferes in immigration cases of people who fled it by targeting them in their host country to prevent them from obtaining refugee status, preventing them from experiencing stability and prosperity. Paul Kagame's regime confiscates Rwandans' private land and destroys their properties, misinterprets laws, fabricates tax fraud charges, and uses other oppressive methods to perpetrate injustices against Rwandans. We attest that Paul Kagame's regime coercively collects loyalty fees for the RPF, as well as a wide range of other taxes that seem endless in an attempt to deny people any chance to save. Paul Kagame's regime with impunity is accused of killing soldiers, politicians, and civilians who played crucial roles in bringing it to power. Throughout Paul Kagame's FPR regime, we assert that all businesses, entrepreneurs, and people refusing to grant free shares to officials who feel entitled are intentionally bankrupted. Most of those targeted are those who refuse to contribute endlessly to the RPF's financially forceful demands, as well as those who fail to provide free goods when the regime requests them. Our view is that Rwanda Revenue Authority, courts, legislatures, police, intelligence services, presidential protection units, embassies, and local administrative authorities are the main institutions that perpetrate injustices against Rwandans who are not protected. We declare our intention to intensify resistance to the murderous regime of President Paul Kagame, which continues to kill or harass innocent Rwandans in Rwanda and abroad. Through this agreement, we form resistance against these killings by committing to working together to combat these brutalities. Section 5. Joint Actions. 5.1. The parties to this agreement have agreed to encourage those within their communities, friends, and others who share their ethnicity, as well as those whom they may persuade to join in the struggle, to band together to follow and adhere to the policy and strategy guidelines for mobilization efforts provided. 5.2. Foundational Strength. This agreement is built on the belief that all parties are the foundational strength, and they all agree to work together to gather resources, tools, and finances, as well as to volunteer in any activity they are asked to participate in. 5.3. During struggling for change, all activities aimed at bringing change are dependent upon the parties to this agreement and the wider community of Rwandans, which implies that the commitment to push for these changes must begin with the parties to this agreement who take on these responsibilities without hesitation, complaint, or objection when necessary. 5.4. Leadership. In addition to the elected leadership who oversees the movement's specific responsibilities, all members and Rwandans, whether they signed these agreements or not, are part of the thousands of leaders who will guide the movement and the country. A higher level position or leadership position will be entrusted to them through internal electoral processes based on their dedication, competence, expertise, and commitment to the tasks they were assigned or the initiatives they took to achieve change. 5.5. Following a victory, it is a time of triumph for the people, as both the winners and losers must feel safe and optimistic. Those signing agree that this is not the time for revenge, inciting ethnic conflicts, or settling scores against hated enemies or those who fought for the opposite side. It is agreed that the accused, whether from the defeated side or the returnees, will remain presumed innocent until proven guilty by a competent court. Thus, their safety must be strictly protected along with that of all other citizens as well. 5.6. The formation of a transitional government. All known and unknown leaders are equally treated during its formation, and the transitional government members will come together to elect a new government during its constitutional assembly. During the interim period of 7 years, the elected leaders are expected to remain in their elected positions. 5.7. Creating a new Rwanda. This agreement stipulates that the parties will create a new Rwanda that will liberate its citizens in terms of living conditions and all rights, and that this will adhere to the policies for improving living standards, social relations, and human rights outlined in the Syllabus for Better Life in Rwanda, which will be used to develop programs and strategies for creating a new Rwanda. 5.8. Last year of the transition period, the parties to the agreement have agreed that, while 1 year remains until the end of the transitional period, political parties and independent candidates recognized throughout the country will have the right to promote themselves in order to attract supporters, as well as financial and material assistance in building capacity for their election campaign. 5.9. Agreement's other provisions. 1. Ethnic groups of Rwandans. The parties to the agreement agree that Rwandans are made up of 3 recognized ethnic groups, Hutu, TWA, and Tutsi, and that they will continue to coexist in mutual respect. In addition to Rwandan laws, capabilities, and human rights, intermarrying is permitted, and it is protected by other universal human rights instruments. 2. Casualties of civil wars. All disabled soldiers and veterans who were discriminated against during the RPF wars are entitled to compensation and support, as stipulated by the legal provisions governing entitlements. 3. The symbols of the Kingdom of Rwanda. The parties agree to re-establish the Rwandan cultural monarchy, which was abolished by the genocidal regime and violated by the RPF regime. 4. Relations between countries. In this agreement, the parties agree to re-establish and strengthen good neighborly relations between Rwanda and the rest of the world, based primarily on trade and mutual respect. 5. The colonial master countries. The parties to this agreement have agreed that they will protect and serve the interests of the colonial master countries that Rwanda has chosen to protect, without compromising Rwanda's well-being and the rights of its people. Prohibited actions. According to this agreement, there are a number of prohibited actions, including the creation of entities that encourage discrimination and division among Rwandans. This prohibition is in place during the development of this movement, during the transitional government, during the democratic period, and after the end of this agreement. Neither the formation of a political party nor the rebuilding of any military or police force based on ethnicity is permitted. Purpose 6. Aim of this agreement. 6.1. This agreement intends to provide Rwandans with a change of direction that will lead to 6.1.1. Obtain a resolution to the distrust and fear that exists between Hutus and Tutsis because of the genocide and the historical injustices that have divided them in the past. Solidarity, cooperation, unity, and empowerment are all essential for the people to resist tyranny. This endeavor aims to create a strong movement that promotes equal rights, establishes equality, and does not discriminate on the basis of race, ethnicity, or religious beliefs. 6.1.2. The signatories wishing to eradicate the history of resentment and hatred and eradicate the culture of ethnic and politically motivated killings, injustice, dictatorship, poverty, unemployment, and chronic hunger, and allow for the implementation of measures designed to eradicate these as set out in the Syllabus for a Better Life in Rwanda. 6.1.3. Signatories of this agreement commit to building unity, cooperation, and strength as a result of the formation of a movement to combat and defeat Paul Kagame and the RPFs. Dictatorship. 6.1.4. Adopting and recognizing democracy as a right of all Rwandans and providing all the justice and compensation due to victims of crimes such as genocide and other injustices. Section 7. The parties to this agreement. 7.1. Representatives of the following entities enter into this agreement. 7.1.1. Political parties and organizations. 7.1.2. Civil society organizations. 7.1.3. Professionals, experts, and intellectuals of Rwanda. 7.1.4. lawyers and human rights advocates. 7.1.5 Rwandan women representatives. 7.1.6 Youths of Rwanda. 7.1.7 Representatives of Rwandan ethnic groups. 7.1.8 Armed groups. 7.1.9 Merchant and entrepreneurs. The 7th of January, 10 Genocide survivors. The 7th of January, 12 International supporters and interest groups. Section 8 The duration of the agreement. 8.1 The agreement is divided into two parts, one continuing the syllabus for better life in Rwanda and the other ending with the transition period, or the period of cooperation between the parties. 8.1.1 The part that ends. This part pertains to the period of collaboration in fostering change among the groups described in Section 7, and it begins and ends with the transition. 8.1.2 Part that continues to exist. This section refers to solutions proposed to all issues of Rwanda as outlined in the book titled Syllabus for a Better Life in Rwanda, specifically those related to the living conditions of the population, interethnic relations, civic engagement, and respect for human rights in all forms. Section 9. Resolving disputes between the parties to this agreement. 9.1. Disputes arising between the parties to these agreements shall be resolved in accordance with the following procedure. 9.1.1. By engaging in mutually beneficial discussions. 9.1.2. Enlisting the help of leaders, senior members, and friends. 9.1.3. Submitting a complaint to the Movements Forum. 9.1.4. Involving the leadership that this agreement establishes. 9.1.5. Seeking legal assistance in Rwanda and internationally. Section 10. The fundamental belief underlying this agreement. 8.1. The following is accepted as part of this agreement. 8.1.1. All parties to this agreement are equal in value, voice, and voting within their forum and before Rwandans. 8.1.2. Acceptance of this agreement results in all parties becoming members of the movement, adhering to its laws and regulations, and gaining access to its opportunities. 8.1.3. All parties to this agreement should contribute to the raising of the human resources, assets, and funds required to expedite the dismantling of Paul Kagame's tyranny. 8.1.4. Parties to this agreement agree that all decisions made by the movement are made in their best interests and in their name. 8.1.5. The parties to this agreement agree to follow the laws and regulations which govern the movement established by this agreement. 8.2. Anything not covered by these agreements shall be governed by the bylaws and regulations that will be adopted. Clause 11. What each party gains from this agreement. 11.1. Rwandans of all kinds, whether residing in Rwanda or abroad, can expect the following benefits as a result of this agreement. 1. It restores all rights they were denied by the oppressive regime in charge of Rwanda today. 2. Reclaims the right to live in, exit, and visit their country as they please and to invest in it. 3. It guarantees them humanity and equal rights before the formed movement and Rwanda's laws. 4. It opens a new era for better lives free from abuse, oppression, and dispossession. 5. It contributes to overcoming poverty, unemployment, and hunger. 6. It elevates them beyond ethnic conflicts, religious divides, and political conflicts. 7. It gives them empowerment and elevates them to any level of authority. 8. It gives them what they are typically entitled to, but are denied by the dictatorship, without having to bribe, dependence on favoritism, or rely on religion, political party, or association, but rather on their abilities and citizenship rights. 11.2. Parties to this agreement. 1.2.1. There are a wide range of organizations and individuals participating in this agreement, including political parties, civil society organizations, professional associations, private activists, the majority of Rwandans, youths, representatives of ethnic groups, armed groups, association of traders and entrepreneurs, as well as individuals who survived genocide. The agreement guarantees the following benefits to its parties. 1. Membership in the movement without discrimination. 2. All members are equally eligible to run for office, be elected, and lead within the movement if they are elected. 3. Participation in transitional government, competition for state contracts, and showcasing talent by presenting ideas without racial bias and participating in all professional opportunities. 4. Give all parties every opportunity to participate in the movement's opportunities during this struggle and in Rwanda's leadership after it is won. 11.3. Army and Police. The agreement guarantees continuity and partnership between the military and police forces, ensuring that professional military and police forces are established that are not ethnically biased. All individuals who wish to serve are assured that all ethnic groups in Rwanda can enter these institutions without discrimination because all those who meet the necessary qualifications will be allowed to do so. Additionally, the agreement guarantees the military, police, and other security agencies that all candidates who wish to join these forces must undergo a thorough screening process conducted by their local councils, in order to ensure that the right candidates are recommended and recruited. This agreement assures the army and police forces, as well as other security agencies, that in providing equal opportunities for education, promotion in ranks and responsibilities, and receiving military missions and honors, all of these issues will be handled and approved in the National Congress, NACO, Assembly, which includes the Security Council as well as all national leaders. Among the criteria for promotion and rising in ranks in the army and police forces will be the approval rate provided by the superiors, as well as reports from communities, sectors, districts, and regions, to the national level, where they interact and serve the people and local councils, as well as the Security Council, according to the Syllabus for Better Life in Rwanda. This framework will address all issues within the framework that establishes directives for security agencies, which will eliminate favoritism. 11.4. The officials in the RPF regime as well as the junior candidates participating secretly in the change. Under this agreement, they will enjoy better positions and cooperation within transitional governments. B. It assures their personal safety and the protection of their families, as well as their property rights. C. It ensures that they are given a fair trial that respects their rights, free from politically motivated accusations, and that their alleged crimes are heard by independent courts. 11.5. Accordingly, this agreement relieves the following from all obligations and gives them all rights equal to its signatories. A. Prisoners and detainees who cannot participate in change efforts due to their incarceration. B. They assist in bringing change by playing clandestine roles with the responsibilities they hold at the oppressive regime but are not allowed to participate in the discussions or signing of this agreement due to being closely monitored. Among them are military officers, police officers, and RPF cadres, along with leaders in various positions. Section 12. Agreement signatories. 12.1. This agreement must be signed by the following. 2.1.1. Groups representing opposition politics and other political interests. 2.1.2. Organizations belonging to civil society. 2.1.3. Associations of professionals. 2.1.4. Groups of Rwandan experts and intellectuals. 2.1.5. Advocates for human rights and lawyers. 2.1.6. Associations of Rwandan women. 2.1.7. youth organizations. 12.1.8 Ethnic groups representing all of Rwanda's ethnic groups. 12.1.9 Fighting for change through armed groups. The 12th of January, 10 groups of entrepreneurs and business people. The 12th of January, 11 representatives of genocide survivors. The 12th of January, 12 all types of independent activists. 12.2 Witnesses who are independent. 12.2.1 International mediators and conciliators. 12.2.2 Honorees and friends invited. 12.2.3 Organizations that provide support. 12.2.4 Stakeholders and interest groups. Edinburgh, Scotland, United Kingdom, August 10, 2019.